4 years ago, they were crying because they couldn't afford their student loans. It's kind of strange because if you're an expert in finance and you got college educated on finance, wouldn't you think you could take care of your finances in your own house?
I don't know, shouldn't you be able to handle your own finances without constantly relying on Dems to give you handouts and bail you out? Recognize this guy? This is a perfect example of why people make FAFO content. This is a perfect example of why regret is not the same as redemption. You may remember this guy from a video where he was crying about losing his farm because he spent a bunch of money he didn't have because he was banking on receiving certain subsidies that he was promised thanks to the Biden admin. And then when Trump got into office, the guy he wanted, and put a freeze on all the aid that was going out, including the aid going to American farmers like himself, he suddenly had a problem with the whole endeavor. People, of course, understandably dragged him, made a bunch of FAFO content, and then he came out and asked people to stop, kicking him while he was down, that he was here to listen and to learn, and that he didn't know about all this Project 2025 stuff. He'd had the wool pulled over his eyes. But now he's in pain, he's afraid for his farm, he's willing to hear people out. In fact, it sparked a conversation where people were saying, like, let's embrace these people who are regretting their choices and let's speak to them because clearly they want to learn. I'm not gonna say that everyone who has regrets doesn't want to learn. What I'm saying is that having regrets does not mean that someone has learned. Having regrets about doing something that would harm a lot of people simply because you're now being harmed, that's not a lesson. You're still operating completely out of self-interest. You have not learned anything. So what happened? Well, a bunch of people who have been pushing against this administration and all the havoc it has been wreaking, all the destruction it is causing, sued the admin over those frozen funds and successfully got those funds unfrozen, at least temporarily. So this learning and listening farmer got his funds released. Now he's fine. What do you think? Did he learn a lesson? Nope. He's now back to going after everyone else. He's now back to not listening to people when they're explaining how tariffs are going to harm the economy. For example, he's now making fun of people who took out student loans. If they're bad with their finances, what are you, dude? What are you? What is your farm if it cannot exist or survive without Dems bailing it out all the time? Yeah, when things get bad for you again, no one's gonna be fooled when you claim to be listening and learning. Next time it's time for you to find something out, we're gonna know. If you're not out there like working to undo the harm that you caused, I'm sorry, your regret is not redemption.